If you're a new stake pool operator, there are a couple of ways that you can get some really large delegations, and that's through a few delegation strategies that are available in the Cardano community. One through the Cardano Foundation, one through IOG, and then one through an initiative called F2LB. So all of these will help you boost up the amount of ADA that you need to the point where you'll be able to produce blocks consistently every single epoch. And Bas Mons joins me on this episode to talk all about these different delegation strategies and whether or not they actually work. What happens when the delegation comes in, what you need to do when you have that delegation, and then also what happens after that delegation leaves your pool and you go from a whopping 3.2 or even a 15 million delegation to almost nothing again. Okay, so let's get into this. But before we do, please make sure you give us that thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and you hear more great content from us real soon. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.
I have Bas Mons joining me again on this podcast episode. I know, I'm a sucker for punishment. Why are you here? No, I'm kidding. You've been awesome. But he joins me again. He joins me again to talk about delegation strategies. So for small stake pool operators, there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can get large delegations to our stake pools to really kick us off the starting block and get that first block minted. And there's a couple of them that are in play at the moment. And Bas, you've received one. My pool is currently receiving one as well. So let's talk about these and find out what they are, why they even exist, and how other stake pool operators can get them. But then more importantly, we'll talk about, do they actually work?
Yeah.
Right. So what do we got, Bas? What delegation strategies have we got in the community at the moment?
Well, the one that's been running for the longest are the Cardano Foundation, the IOG, and the F2LB delegation. They differ quite a bit in terms of how they're set up. Like the IOG ones are directly from like the headquarters, so to speak. These are small wallets, about 3.2, 3.4 million ADA. That's nothing to sneeze at, by the way. Like from that delegation amount on, you're pretty much guaranteed to produce blocks fairly steadily and actually generate income from your pool and be able to provide some return for your delegators. So that's a good one. Then you have the Cardano Foundation one, which is a little over 15 million, triple the size, 5 times the size, excuse me, math. And that's a lot. Like that's a lot of money, or a lot of ADA. And it's a little bit unclear how those selection procedures work. So the third one is F2LB, which is actually a community started setup. Me and the founder of the initiative recently started another podcast to discuss the origins of it and how it's all playing out. And that's actually a growing wave. It's people like pools, they reserve a part of their stake in a separate wallet, and it travels along a set path, like a queue system. So everyone delegates a certain amount. It's all being tracked in a brilliant app built by LucyPool. And it actually gives people insight in when it's your turn, how much could you expect to receive, and you're giving something in return. So you're actually, how would you say, you're sacrificing some of your active stake to once get a very large amount of stake. So you can actually kickstart block production to see if you're like viable on the mainnet, if everything's working, to get rid of that 0 blocks produced label, which is, it could be a bit scary for delegators to say, like, hey, but you haven't really produced some blocks. Like, how can you convince me that this is a good move to make? And Stefano actually sparked that on the forums and said, we should like pull it up a little bit and see how that goes. And it actually gained a lot of traction. And what started as a community initiative with a little bit of a dreaming, vision, turned out to become a really big community of people doing much, much more than just waiting for their turn in line. Like people help them with tech related questions or promote marketing, like breach the whole well, as you've experienced the whole Reddit wall where you can never post anything on Reddit because if there's HTTPS somewhere, they're like, oh, link, and they get really pissed. So you really help each other out getting your pool visible and helping people to understand what it's actually about. It's not just about the numbers, not just about the ROA. And that delegation really comes with a little bit of a prerequisite, not just have 25K pledge. Like there's no minimums. Like you have to at least contribute 1,000 ADA, which used to be 500. But it does give you a lot of community help. Like you start floating even though you're not producing yet. So we've been happy to receive it recently. I'm now looking at one of my recent tweets where I had the ADA pools stats, so we're having a slow, like a steady increasing line, and then it jumps up to above 2 million stake, and immediately block production starts firing. It's amazing to see. That feeling is great. And after it declined, the increase is not gone, so there's still that upward trend, but you would kind of expect it to be a little bit more what stays, but so far I think it's about 50K extra that I have. I'm not sure if it's thanks to or despite, not really sure. But we've also seen some bigger guys leave that joined for the wave and then after kind of left because they see, oh, people are leaving, why they're leaving, and people just follow the crowd, which is understandable.
Yeah. So you were lucky to get, I guess, early on in the queue for that F2LB delegation. So you managed to get in and get your delegation started off pretty early, and you managed to get it for about 3 epochs. Is that correct?
Yeah, we contributed 10,000 ADA to the queue, so that's 10,000 ADA that we haven't been having in our own pool. So it's a fairly big sacrifice for what you get, but it really helps everyone else out. So it's a little bit of community service, I guess, as well.
But it's a big. You may say it's a big sacrifice, like 10,000 ADA. But really, I wish it was 10 million. You wouldn't even need the queue if it was 10 million. But for 10,000 ADA, you managed to, collectively get that boost up to that 2 million mark. So, most pools won't be able to do it without, some sort of group effort or the delegation strategies from Cardano Foundation.
Yeah, and it's not just the pools, because the queue is open to people that like the idea and they just want to travel the queue with us. Like it's really easy, just follow the wallets. Like you can sign up as a supporter on the website. You can create your own page, you can link your wallets and say, you know what, I'm going to join you guys. And the bigger that wave gets, the smaller the risk it gets for anyone joining it, because whoever's turn it is no longer really a small pool. I mean, you're still like 2 million, like roughly 2 million is what we're at now. But there's a guy that joins with a wallet that used to be 700,000. I think it's a bit more now due to all the rewards. He'd actually split it up, and he's made some really sensible decisions in using his delegation. So, for example, for the chess pool, is the current benefactor, he also got Cardano Foundation. So he says, you know what, I'm going to take my wallet and move it temporarily to another small pool to boost, and then I'll join back in later. It's like people are really involved in this, and it's brilliant. It's so good to see.
Yeah, that is really good to see. Now, with the other delegation strategy, so with the F2LB, I keep on getting the acronym incorrect. But with
practice.
I know it doesn't flow off the tongue, but with that one, you essentially just sign up to the website, put your delegation to the active pool, and then you just join the end of the queue. Now, with the other ones, with IOG, we have to submit a form registration process, which goes out every 3 months or so. And the criteria changes every once in a while. And from my experience, it was mostly legal location, the decentralization of the network, where you're situated and where your pool's situated. If it was, I believe, also energy efficient, how energy efficient it was in terms of eco-friendliness. I think that was a factor that was on the forms.
Yeah, I think they give you the option to describe what your pool's values and mission is, and if it's mission driven, is it CO2 neutral, stuff like that. So you can kind of advertise it. Right.
Yeah.
To give you a little bit of an edge, because those selection procedures are manual and done by people. So they're actually looking at each application. I think it was 700 applications in the previous round.
That's correct.
Which is a huge number. and they have 40. No, how many wallets do they have that move?
30, I believe.
30.
No, 100 wallets.
100.
At,
So
yeah, at 3.2 million each.
yeah. So actually, by doing that, you kind of weed out the people that might meet the basic criteria to the people that actually are aware they're on the money. They keep an eye on the blog, they keep an eye on IOHK, and they actually put some effort into describing what they're doing and thinking about what they're doing. Like, why are they adding value? I don't really think that it should be a necessity. I think if it's going to be such a wide network, it shouldn't really rely on whether you're CO2 neutral or not. I mean, that's something you could decide if you want to make your pool cheaper, like run it cheaper, but the power cost it's virtually nothing. Anyway. Like if I leave my PC on for the night because I forget to shut it down, it's already double. Like, I mean, it's not that much. So, but that prerequisite kind of weeds out the passive pools that don't really have stakes, so they don't really accidentally get selected. And turns out that their whole setup is mixed up. So it actually it creams off the top, which is a good thing. I think you need to have people that are willing to make that work.
And with the Cardano Foundation one, it is a lot more randomized, and it could hit.
Seems so.
Yeah, it could hit a pool that isn't producing blocks properly, even though one of the criteria is to have at least one block produced. So I guess that's why that criteria is there. But it could hit a pool that isn't set up correctly either. But from what I understand, it is randomized based on the criteria that they put in of one block. Yeah. 25,000 ADA as the pledge minimum, and you haven't received any delegation strategy from IOG or Cardano Foundation before.
No, we haven't. And I think that the Cardano Foundation doesn't really publish their metrics on how they select it. I think it's 44 wallets, something like that just travel every now and then, and sometimes some weird stuff is happening, or weird. I'd rather say it's hard to follow what's happened because you don't really know what rules it's supposed to follow.
Yeah.
So then anything is really random. But I do think both parties, both IOG and IOG, or both IOG and the Cardano Foundation, try to avoid multiple pools. People that already have multiple pools because they have a solid setup. They don't really need this bootstrap. Pools under a certain amount of ADA present. I think I'm not really sure if there's anything solid to say, but I think it's around, if you're above 500,000 and under 5 million or something like that. But because I haven't really seen pools that were really big and then still receive it. So I think there's more of a mathematical parameters that they're tuning. Say any pool that fits these characteristics is eligible, roll the dice. I mean, it could be that. I don't really know. Like, no one really knows.
Yeah, you're right. They haven't really published how it has played out. But we have seen some pools had it withdrawn from them as well for certain reasons, which is unfortunate.
We all know that. Was it a Crow pool or a Crow?
Yeah.
Was it?
CRO. Everyone knows that it was CRO, so it doesn't hurt saying it. It's all over the internet anyway. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it did. So we know what they are, why they exist, and how you can potentially get them. But do they really work? We touched on the F2LB one for yourself, and it worked for you in terms of getting that first block production working, and you managed to get a little bit of extra delegation afterwards. But you did see that big drop and some of the big delegates move off. How are you now with the pool? What's the situation? Is it still looking good in terms of growth, or has that had a negative effect on your pool?
No, it has not had a negative effect at all, other than the 10K ADA that would have been in my pool on the other hand. But that would, like, if the curve goes like this, that whole curve would have been slightly like this the whole time. So your lifetime active stake would have increased. But we were at roughly 200, a little over 200 active stake when it hit. So 440, sorry, we're at 440 active stake when the wave hit. Then we've had another delegator with 107K outside of F2LB just join, because we have that initiative of the stake coins, so you can kind of get a part of our rewards distributed across the coins you hold when you start delegating with us. It's like a mini airdrop. And that that really tickled some people's fantasies. And hey, that seems like a good idea. That could be fun. I'll join you for the wave. So they stayed for those 3 epochs, and after that, they saw the decline in stake and were kind of like, okay, I'm going to go back to my multi-pool or my other big pool, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Like I don't hold any grudges for people to do that, because people are here and they should be, from a protocol perspective, to maximize their rewards. They should act on their best self-interest.
Yeah.
Not because of us putting up puppy eyes or having all sorts of very admirable goals. Like, people need to be able to trust that their investment is in good hands. But the line has been increasing, like linearly almost. So really, it's almost directly tied to how much effort you put in. You scour Twitter, Reddit, you make sure that you talk to people about it. If they have any questions, just let them finish. Like, let them tell why they have doubts or fears about certain things. And you'll really find out that if you put some effort into it, like, people will trust you, say, hey, this actually makes sense. Let's do it. So if you keep doing that, you will grow. I mean, the first 300K or 400K was done purely on our own effort and energy. So having the delegation is really nice, but it should not be a prerequisite. I think if you cannot survive without these fundings, maybe you should be operating a pool. I mean, it's work, if you can't really muster that that energy. Like, I don't think anyone else should be paying for that. I mean, it's nice to have people like get lifted out of the non-producing state. But if you can't stay there on your own, just grab your bag and find a pool that you want to delegate to. I mean, it's just as noble. Like, we're even already discussing internally, like how long do we want to do this? Like, are really committed, are solid, like our fixed costs are really low, like in terms of energy, data, redundancy, all that is hosted with a guy that's on our team. So he's like, nah, that's good. So we have a really long breath. But there's pools that pay like 70, 80, $100 a month worth of VMs, and they still see a lot of missed slots and everything. So that there is a point that it becomes pointless to do, other than I really like doing it. But it's not really adding anything. I mean, we have 2,700 pools. Even if K doubles twice, we're fine. We're good. So yeah, I'm really curious on how that's going to play out. But I think our line, keeps going up slowly but surely.
So in regards to the goals for your pool specifically, at what point would you say you're comfortable? Like, what amount of delegated stake, active stake, live stake, I should say, no, active stake, are you aiming for? What point is, you're good?
I don't think there's a set number. I would say that I would breathe easily if we're between 1, 2, 3 million, like something in that ballpark. But the way the current fixed fees and margin fees work, it is actually beneficial to be in a large pool, because the fixed costs are a smaller percentage of the total cost. Like, it starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's not that huge. But if you really want to provide what you say you are providing, like stable returns, small pools just as much as big pools, you kind of have to have some luck. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to afford it, because the 340 ADA fixed cost is for the first block only. So any block after that is completely to all the delegators, like proportional to their stake. If you only produce one block each epoch, you're taking roughly 30%. So while that can happen, I think anything below 5 actually doesn't allow you to produce blocks at the same rate a large pool does. And that should be fixed. I mean, make no mistake, I'm not saying that any pool below 5 should just pack up shop and leave, but it's a protocol parameter that we should fix. But if we make that fixed cost lower, then we're going to get a race to the bottom, and you kind of expect people to run this for free. And that's not something I see happening for a system that is supposed to be the next financial network.
Yeah, I agree. Even at, I can't see the fixed costs going any lower than 340 ADA. It's our pool costs are going up, so it will be a stretch soon. And with smart contracts coming out, from what I've heard, the the instance costs and the requirements in terms of RAM are going to be increased as well. So it's going to cost everyone a little bit more to run these pools. Don't know how the Raspberry Pis are going to handle it, but see.
Well, I think you can tweak a lot of metrics to make them at least like they can manage, but you want them to have a high fault tolerance. They have to be like a little bit beefier than they need to be. Like if there's spikes in any resource, you want them to be able to handle it without skipping a beat. Like especially if you're in the lower ranges, like missing one slot or having a big tip difference is gonna mess you up if you miss a block. You're gonna first, like you've had it. You had to explain to delegates, hey, something went wrong. We did something with the pledge, and now we had no rewards. And like this is more of a technical thing, but it could be a hardware thing as well, where you simply don't have enough resources, and then what?
Yeah. If you're only assigned one slot for that epoch and you've completely missed it because a relay was down, that would really hurt. For us, we're at 10 million active stake at the moment, and on Yoroi, if you look at the cost of the pool, it's still quite high. We had our I think margin fee at 2%. With the fixed costs as well, and people were questioning why our costs were so high. I think it was around 7 or 8%. So they're looking at this, trying to wonder why on earth would they delegate to our pool with 10 million ADA with a 2% margin, which I thought was quite reasonable, rather than delegating to one of the really large pools that have 50 million and a cost on ADA pools on the Yoroi app at like 4 or 3.7%. So they just went to the lower cost pool, which makes sense to them.
Well, it makes sense from a percentage perspective. But if you look at the absolute values, we're talking differences that might not even be that big. I think one guy on Twitter recently calculated if you have between 250 and 300 ADA staked, you better not switch pools. Because once you get a block, you kind of forfeit your rewards just by switching. Yeah. So the fact that there's stake migration is a good thing. And people should be actually compelled to find the best optimized setup, because I don't think that the network benefits from having 3,000 pools all fighting over stake and having it really diffuse. I mean, power to the edges, yes. Infinite amount of edges, no. I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, people need to be able to trust any operator that has been in the game for a while to make solid decisions, to monitor his pool, and be justly compensated for his effort. And that's something I still see and feel is really underrepresented, even a little bit of a taboo. Like he's making money on his pool, my God, how? Yes, like I spent 15 to 20 hours a week trying to market. Like, okay, past 2 weeks I've had a new kid, so it's a bit less. But after that, you're everywhere. You're up and down. Yeah. Why should that not be compensated? I don't really get that. And there's so many options to choose from. But what if now 2,000 pools die out just because there's no Cardano Foundation delegation, there's no IOG delegation, there's no other ways of supporting pools and keep them alive? One by one, they're going to pack up, and then suddenly K increases. We suddenly want 1,000 pools. The maximum goes from 46 to 32 million. What's going to happen? I'll tell you what will happen. The people that have successful pools, 1, 2, or 3, or 66, no names, they will just duplicate their pools. So what happens is we will get more pools, but we won't get more operators, and that's a problem. Dog is moving in here. So we don't get more operators. And if you want a diffuse network, you want to have a lot of single entities forming one big carpet, not one entity having all these different parts of the carpet under his control. It's just, I'm not sure, but I don't think that that's the vision of decentralization most people have. So we need to be here, even if we're not really producing just yet. Like there's going to be that time where there's a lot of extra traffic, and then you're happy that not the big restaurant chains, but all the small shops and stuff that in the night markets are also there to catch that. I mean, it's really important. It's really important.
We just have to wait for that moment.
Yeah.
Just one
and keep
thing.
fighting.
Just one thing. The rolling of your chair, I can pick it up in the audio, and the tapping on the table when you're getting excited. Just keep it in mind, okay?
I'll keep it to a minimum, yeah.
All right. So I've got a couple of questions I want to double back on. So you mentioned all of the effort and marketing that you're doing at the moment. So the amount of time and effort that you're putting in, say 15 hours a week, and the amount of delegation that you're getting out of that is, let's say it's an extra 50,000 delegation for every 15 hours. If we were trying to aim for, let's say, 30 million active delegation, that's a lot of hours and effort that you're putting in to gain that much delegation over time.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable?
No, it's no extra resources or no extra revenue to account for it, because with a margin of 1 or 2, I think we have 1%. Yeah, we have 1%. It's 7 ADA per block that we take. 7.
Yeah.
And then you have the 340 fixed, which is nice. But we have to split it 3 ways because we have the developer, me, and the guy that runs the architecture, which is fair. I mean, that's how it works. Like, I have no or very little understanding of how the CLI works, so I'm happy to know a little bit. But that's not sustainable. And I think there's a lot of people that are able to run it on cloud VMs with minimal effort in their free time as a hobby, which is fine. I mean, it's good. I don't think every pool needs to be like super star-cut professional. But if we want to have like 1,000, maybe 1,500 pools to run this thing on for the next 10, 15, 20, 50 years, I don't know. I don't think charity and these are the best way to build it on. Like, it's really good that it's there. Like, don't get me wrong, but it needs to be 100% accountable and not so volatile, I think. But that's maybe going out on a limb here, but that sustainability is key. Like, people need to be compensated for their efforts. Like, you wouldn't work for free, but if it's your hobby, yeah, why not? I mean, yeah. There's people that cook, like in our neighborhood, people that cook meals and they sell them for like pennies on the dollar, which is fine. But I'm really happy that there are also restaurants that may charge a bit more, but I know they're always open, and like stuff like that really matters.
Yeah, okay. This is interesting. But to keep this many pools active and sustained over a long period of time, at least until smart contracts comes out, or at least a year into it, and active is going to be rough. It's going to be tough. Myself, we're doing okay, and we've diversified our sources of income. So other pools are doing it as well with NFTs or little projects that they're doing to try and gain traction that way. So it's good to see, and people are thinking about it, but it's a long, tough road.
It is, and it should be. I mean, don't you think that anyone that opens a restaurant just should be immediately full? No. Like, that's like we have a white paper in the works that actually explains this, what we've had before, like that party problem. Like, you get in, there's no one there, but everything that needs to be there, like the bar, the dance floor, lighting, everything's there. Just no people. If we can get past that hurdle, that's where they separate wheat from chaff. Like, can you find a way to make that happen? Then good, that's on you. If you can't, you have to reconsider. Maybe. I mean, if you run a restaurant for 3 years and no one's ever showed up, you got to really start scratching your head. Maybe after a couple of weeks, you should be doing that already. Yeah. And in this case, you can have a little bit more patience because it's a very young, new industry. So we should be patient. I think people that spin up a pool and watch for 3 epochs, they look at the leader logs and say, okay, this isn't working. And then they have 6K stake. I'm like, probability. Just read about it. It should be difficult. Like, the fact that, like, if I raise by 50K a week, I'd be super happy, but we don't. Like, it's smaller steps, but it's stable, so it will get there. If that stops, if I see that my efforts are not really producing anything anymore, then it's time to reconsider. Of course, you should always be considering, like, what am I doing? Is it something I still want to be doing, even if it's not that profitable? Because I really intend to accept ADA as a payment for my physical therapy exercises. That could be really good, like to have people like have a QR code and make that work, just because it's getting so much backlash now. Like in Holland, there's articles everywhere of banks cracking down on crypto, stopping trading. We've had the whole Binance ideal stuff. I think if I could at least talk to people about it, like have a Yoroi wallet, scan the QR code, do this, do that, like to make it actually get adopted, that's where we need to go. Because then you don't need that conversion back to dollars or euros or whatever anymore, because ADA becomes the value transfer means, because that's what the fiat currency actually is. That would be fun. Like if that works, and this whole pool has been like a jumping board up to that point, man, I'm happy. I'm more than fine to, in a couple of years, say, you know what, it's been good. We're going to move to another pool. Thank you, everyone. But we're not that far, like not by a long shot, because we have really low costs, so we can stay here for a while.
Yeah. All right. Now, talking about luck and probability, we have seen a couple of pools get really lucky. So I had an interview with Raman from Ada Co. And he runs that pool in India, and he managed to produce that block with 0 pledge and 1,600 delegation, and had been running for 25 days.
What?
You didn't hear about this?
Oh no, I think it's about like when you add up these numbers, like my brain starts to calculate, and then numbers become so small, I just stop. So 1,600 and zero, like, is it even possible to have 0 pledge in your pool registration?
It is because like he had 500 ADA when he registered, and that's a registration fee. So that's it. Everything went. So he had the wallet, had it delegated to the pool, had it all set up, then went to register and went, oh, there goes my 500 ADA. I guess I have nothing left now. And then just got a friend.
Some change delegate for the transaction. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a little bit, left over, but essentially 0 pledge. And then just managed to get a friend to delegate. And hey presto, there you go. There's his block.
Dude, that guy got like a 50% ROA on his investment.
Yeah. I think it was an extremely high ROA, and it's a pretty cool story to hear.
Well, they are cool stories, and I think it's brilliant that it happens. And I'm really rooting for the people to have that happen. Like we've had one guy like Ernest in the F2LB group that had like 20K stake and got a block as well. Which it's that assurance, that reassurance that your setup is all right. Like you're good to go. All you need is people in. So what that means, I think any pool that has produced a block being a reliable factor for the criteria, one of the reliable criteria for the pools, for the delegation strategies. So you have to have your setup in order. But like it would be really good to have a contingency plan, like something like what if, and okay, if we get successful, then what? Like how do we make this sustainable? Like if, like here in Holland, if you apply for a subsidy for like a company, fine that you want that money, like everyone wants the money, but what do you do when it runs out, and how will you make yourself sustainable in the meantime? I've kind of missed that from the IOG perspective. Like they have this great form with really good questions, but it doesn't really seem to account for people that have no plan whatsoever and just like have their fingers crossed and just hope the delegation hits. Like it should be disincentivized to just spin up a couple pools and just pray for the delegation to hit, because it's like 3 months. Like if you produce blocks for 3 months, that's 3 times 6, it's 18 epochs. That's 18 times 340 ADA. Maybe some fees. That's a huge amount of money for doing absolutely nothing. And I think there should be a little bit of a drop off or on ramp to become eligible, because if it's just that random, we're going to see more people say, you know what, I've got a couple hundred ADA, a couple 100,000 ADA. I'm just going to spin up 4 pools with 50K pledge each, and or 25K pledge each, like slap on a mission or something, and then see what happens. Like there's no one really preventing you from doing it, because if something hits, like you get money. Yeah, it's a good way. And well, still with the IOG one, there is that selection criteria. So if the more pools that spin up, so
you have less of a chance to actually get selected. And with that also, you need to have active social media profiles. So if you're spinning up 4 pools, 4 active social media profiles, that's really hard to maintain. That's a lot of work and effort that you'd have to do over a certain period of time, wait for that delegation cycle to happen. And then, so that's a little bit harder.
Yeah, true. But like the more of those sensible criteria are attached to it, the better it becomes. That's why I say, like, I think I'd rather have the IOG than the CF. I mean, 50 mil, like, it's brilliant. Like, yeah, load it up. But if that makes you sit back, lean back, and actually loosen the ropes on your efforts on social media and helping people and that value production, that will be a bad thing, I guess. So if these become substitutes for being an active member of the community, then we should really, really reconsider and see how they should be managed. Because, yeah, you have to be here. Delegation or not, you have to be here. Or not. Like, then you can delegate to a pool, which is also noble and very productive to do. Like, people seem to think, like, I need to have my own pool to be a contributor. And that's the whole point of proof of stake. No, you don't. Like, it's great if you can, and if you have the skills and the effort and know-how, the time, the money, the persistence to do it, then do it. But please be aware that if you have a nice bag and you find a pool that you like, that has a good mission, or just a guy that you like that's always there for answering questions, delegate, and you're doing 90% of his work just by clicking. Because other than that, what we do is we keep a bunch of computers with certain software up to date, and then point at it at social media channels. That's what we do. Like, if you strip that and just delegate, you're doing basically the same thing. So, yeah, I'm not trying to discredit us as pool operators, but we should really make more of us, of ourselves, than we really are. Delegators are actually more important than operators. Like, we have plenty of operators.
Oh yeah,
we sure do. Delegation in the right spots.
Yeah, we do need more delegates. Right. So in terms of the Cardano Foundation delegation, the 15 million that has been going around, some pools that I've looked at through the transition of from pool to pool after the cycle ends have done well, and a lot haven't. So I've seen plenty of pools that have had it come in. They're producing lots of blocks, all the rewards, maybe a little bit of extra delegation comes in, but some of them barely even move their initial delegation stake after the Cardano Foundation one moves out. So it's basically spike all the way up, really excited, drop all the way down, then close the pool and move on with life. It's literally that kind of reaction. Close your pools? Yeah, yep. One here in Australia closed up after that Cardano Foundation delegation moved on.
Any word on why and how? And
from what I won't name the pool, but from what they told me, just other things in life were more important at that point in time. And with the amount of time and effort that you need to actually put in, wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it's the one where you had to broker that thing, like, is anyone interested? Or were you?
No, that's a different one again.
Oh, that's a different one. Oh, there's multiple pools.
Yeah. There's lots of that. I've spoken to.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to at one point decide that the business you started running isn't really as profitable as you expected it to be, and I don't see any shame in saying, you know what, this isn't what I want to do. I want to take a different approach. Like, there's people in F2LB that had the same thing. They're like, this is a lot of effort. Like Johan, the one that was second in the queue, I think he got a job at CERN in Switzerland. Like, yeah, dude, if you're like a nuclear physicist, please do that. I mean, we need way more nuclear physicists than we need pool operators. So that's why he kind of went off the grid, I think. And that's all the more credits to him. I mean, that's a good thing. It's fine to try something and then decide that it's not for you. There's no shame in that. But I do think that a lot of people, especially operators, because you've poured so much money and effort and time, giveaways, NFTs, you've done so many things, to then decide, you know what, it's not going to work. Yeah, that's hard. But
it is.
I think we have to have some, how do you say it? Some leniency towards these people, because they've tried. Like, there's so many people that don't try, and like, what if? Like, I'd rather have the, drop off and say, okay, it wasn't it. Lesson well learned. I'll take my loss, so to speak, and move on. Like, you don't really lose anything. Like, you deregister your pool, you get your 500 data back, and you consider you continue staking and getting rewards. I mean, you have a safety net. You just weren't really the one to help fortify the net, but now you can do it with your delegation. Like, I think it's a brilliant setup. Like, go for as long as you can, and if you make it, good. If you don't, also good. Just do this other thing, which is super easy and also really helpful.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there are a lot of Reddit posts talking just about this. So if you jump on Reddit and go to the subreddit for stake pools, you can see a lot of people asking, is there shame in shutting down your pool? And threads and threads of comments talking about saying no, it's not. So it's good that the community support.
Yeah, it's universally people say, why? Like, you can better regret something that you have tried than that you haven't. And I mean, in most cases, of course, there's always exceptions, but I'm not sure. I think the majority of people want to contribute in the most meaningful way. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But for example, like, I'm a physical therapist by day. That's really meaningful as well. Like, if it turns out that this pool operator thing is going to take 3 days of work for the equivalent of 5 sessions of physical therapy, then there's going to be a point that I have to say to myself, you know what? I make more money and am equally meaningful in my regular day job, and I'll stake my bag and slowly add to it and compound, what everyone does, then I'm going to close up. And I think anyone would understand. And the ones that don't, that's a shame. Like, that would be a shame, but I don't think there's any. Like, the ones that I have, like, our Telegram group is so supportive. It's brilliant. It's that community that you're building. That's one of the main reasons to keep going. Like, we want to see this through. We want to tip above that 2-3 million and really see that block production get regular. That would be really good.
Yeah, it's really cool to see I think the successful pool operators at the moment build up a community behind their pool as well, and actually grow along with the pool. So that's pretty cool. Now, to move on to some more, I guess, cheerful news about the delegation strategies. There are some pools that are doing so well out of it, and we spoke a little bit about it before, but the pool LGBTQ, pretty sure I got that acronym right, has done... they've done phenomenally well out of their Cardano Foundation delegation. So they were operating, I think, since Epoch 256, and now it's 280, and they got that delegation in, and they've jumped from, let's see how many delegates here. In Epoch 279, they were at 47 delegates, which is good. But here in Epoch 280, they're at 777 delegates.
Yeah.
That's quite a jump. And that's from what was being returned on the Yoroi app on the weekend, where they had an ROA of 12 point something or other %.
Yeah.
And people jumped and people moved into the pool.
And
which is great.
I think there's this twofold. Like, my reaction would be twofold. First of all, I think they've done really well in choosing to identify with something that lives under a community that is really prone to hold crypto assets. Like, the people that hold the majority of, like, smaller wallets, or like up to 5,000, like, have some savings, been doing it for a while. Those people are, well, not really millennials, but maybe even a generation after that. And the whole social justice narrative really fits well with a lot of these people. They feel that that's something that we need to discuss. It's something that is as much against the establishment, not just financially, but more like socially. So I think their connection with that really helps it. Like, they want equality for everyone, a happy place for everyone. Like, what's not to like about that? So that's something that anyone really could, like, how can you not support that? I mean, it's a good thing. And it really helps. And then, well, being 12% on your ROI and being on the top, where people really, really get scroll tired, then you say, whoa, 12%, click, just go. I did the same thing when I was delegating my wallets. I've done that for a couple epochs before I spun up the pool. I just looked at the biggest numbers and then I clicked there. And in Daedalus, it was like more of a roster, and Yoroi, it's a list. You just click the top one, like you're a thief of your own wallet if you don't do it. And I think that's what makes them go up. Like I think Rob from STAYKPool said, guys, no one's talking about this. What's happening here? And I don't think he did that out of jealousy, but like, how is this happening? How is so many people going there? And it was not just people moving from another pool to LGBT, that one, but to like also new delegates, like people that actually spun up wallets. So maybe people like spliced off wallets. That's also a part that's really hard to check. So I think those two main components make their success. I just really hope for them that once that 12% doesn't really turns out to pay out, that people don't leave, that they stick with their decision and give the concept of APY yearly, give it some time to accumulate, to mature, because there's so many people are really, I would say it impatient, but actually impatient. So if they join a pool and it doesn't like instantly start skyrocketing, they're like, oh, have I made the right decision? Like if you get to choose out of 2,700 pools, like that feeling is going to jump on you, like, or crawl on you, like, have I made the right decision? And I would just like to reiterate to everyone listening or watching, pick a pool you like, pick an operator that you can reach, a mission that you can get behind or not, and just stay. Like, you don't have to move up and down all the time. There's no reason to do it.
Yeah. As long as the pool's minting blocks, you can talk to the operator, you're pretty much good to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people will see over time with this particular pool, the LGBTQ pool, that the return rate will start to drop. So that 12% rate has already dropped to about 7%, I think, and that's just over one epoch. So yeah, we'll see that slowly drop down, and then the next few epochs, it would average out to what we should see around that 5% mark.
Yeah.
And over that year time, everyone
it might even drop below. It might even drop below again. I mean, the whole point is that it goes up like this and it saturates. So what is 12% now will become 3%, will become 7 and 8. So if like we had 500% luck on our last on epoch 279, I think
500
500% luck. Like we had 220 active stake and we got a block with that.
That's pretty good.
Like it's pretty good. Like it's not like 1600, but it's good. And the returns on that epoch were more than that 5-block banger we had at the start of F2LB. So that really gives you a little bit of an idea of, like, even with the fixed fee being there. So if you can do it on your own, you really should, because we don't have to share it with the like 1.5 mil other ADAs that were in the pool. So this is a block that is divided over a 20 times smaller amount of stake.
Something to think about. About.
But we'll probably go a couple of epochs without one now. Odds have no memory. We know odds have no memory. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
That's what we saw with our pool as well. Like, we had a huge spike in luck, and with a lot of blocks as well. So one of our epochs, our average should be around 9, but one epoch we hit 19 blocks.
Yeah, that was insane.
That ridiculously high, but that's only like 200%, just over 200% higher. So it's way lower than what percentage of luck that you had. But right after that, it dropped dramatically. I knew it was coming, because we had like 3 consecutive high luck rate block production epochs, and then right after that, it dropped to 50%, and then we had that technical issue after that.
The good thing is it
didn't have to, but it did for us.
Yeah, but it will, and that's why the protocol is designed in a good way. That yes, stake will increase your chances of block production, but it will even out. So if you can manage to stay long enough, like for example, we had like 1,000 ADA or something, 1,200 ADA that we got from the first couple of epochs is now added to the pool permanently. So you kind of, every time you get something, you also grow a little bit. But you don't grow proportionally to the total amount, because that's like the percentage doesn't really change. So it is actually how well are you doing as a pool that determines how you grow. And I think those CF delegations really help because that gives you way more than you should have if you're smaller. I just still think you have to do it on your own as much as you can. And of course, if you have it, hey, I'll gladly welcome it. But I think in the long run, we should really think about how, like, are we keeping pools alive that maybe don't really have to be there?
Yeah.
And maybe we're one of them. Like I'm aware that we might be one of those pools. Like if it turns out that I have to do so much effort to fill it, should I be doing it? Like for now, I'm working 3 days a week, which is fine. Like I can afford it, so it's good. But if I turn out to have 2 more kids, I may no longer be able to do it. So yeah,
we'll see.
Be careful.
We'll see. For me personally, the amount of time and effort that I'm putting into everything is astronomical at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. 10, 15 hours a day easily at the moment through everything that I'm doing. It's
but
it
you've
takes
got
a toll.
something to show for it, man. I mean, the podcast is really nice. Like I really enjoy talking to you. It's informative. You have nice guests. So it's not just something you do to keep the pool running. Like the pool running is more of a byproduct of the efforts you do. And if people value that, as a consequence, the pool will grow. I think. I mean, it's more of an inverse relation, or it's the other way around. I don't think you get successful because your pool grows. Your pool grows because you get successful. Like look at Linda's pool, for example. You've had a big hand in helping her set it up, but the way she handles the community is just really good. Like she went from 0 to I think 800-900K in one epoch in like a couple of days, like because people are like lined up, like this is cool. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
She's done really well. That's mainly her social positioning that she's been building up, backed up by some good tech. And that's important. Like then you grow. Like now she's actually trying to keep it low to stay in the min swap range, which is good. Like the snapshots there. So
yeah,
I really laughed when I read that tweet.
You got that? Like, don't delegate to me right now. I need this this min swap delegation.
Yeah.
But she's there. She's there.
Yeah, good.
But you're right. She did build up that big following at first. Like a lot of the, I guess, influencers or YouTubers, they start with a following. They have a lot of people that are listening and watching them. And from that, they can spin up products. They can spin up pools. They can spin up training courses, whatever it is. And people will follow. People will buy. They believe, they trust in those people. They like those people. And hence they can do things like that quite easily.
Yeah,
I've seen other pools. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but like in one epoch, they go from nothing, just open up the pool to like millions and millions, like 10, 15 millions in one epoch. So it's quite a testament to their followers.
Yeah, it's like the fact that they already have the momentum, it just doesn't really show in their pool yet because it's not live. Like we've opened the pool and then had to gain momentum. And you see that line slowly growing, but there's people that already have that momentum going, just no ADA Pool's website to show for it, where you actually make it visible. And once the pool is live, it just catapults away. And the good thing is, that's their prerogative. I think people that are actually adding value to the community, they should be able to spin up their pool quickly. And hey, if they have a second pool, like I probably wouldn't do it, but I don't see any unethical behavior. Like, I mean, I have a bigger beef with exchange pools than I have with someone owning 2 or 3 pools, because like if you have like a supermarket that you've built from the ground up and you have people that you're a place in the neighborhood where people can go for a cup of coffee and talk and their groceries, and you become so successful that you open up another one a couple blocks away. Is that bad? No, it's all within the rules. But we do have problems with like Walmart and like the bigger ones, like really competing others out of the market. And that's something we should maybe talk more about, like more extensively about.
Well, your pool, for example, has 3 owners. Like your actual profit margins per operator is quite low because you're split amongst 3 people. Our pool's the same. We're split between 5 people, actually. So it's even smaller. So it makes it quite tough. So it's it's, would probably be in a position where we would split off another pool if we ever get to a large enough size, just to make it a nicer profit margin for the operators, the owners of the pool.
Yeah, but if that means that you also need like another tech part, or like someone to run that pool, like if we would split up into 3 pools, we would need 3 extra people to do all the separate parts. Like the reason we're 3 owners is not because we like to. Like I do the marketing. I'm an easy talker. I really like having these discussions.
Yep.
We have a developer. It's great with coding and making websites and thinking about these mathematical stuff. And we have a guy that has a couple of beefy servers all around the country and says, yeah, you know what, just host them with me, but please don't ask me to be on interviews or websites or just me. So we each have our expertise. And if I had to do the 2 other jobs, I may have the full revenue, but it would cost me like 5 times as much time. So it makes absolutely no sense to do so. Yeah. At least for us. Like I'd rather have 30% of something than 100% of nothing, because it wouldn't really get off the ground if I had to do that on my own. I'm really honest in that. Like that's not me.
Oh, well, that's why the other members of our pool joined. They just don't have the technical skills or marketing skills to actually do anything. They did have the ADA though, so that really helped.
That really helps.
So what's next for you? So we've talked about all these delegation strategies. We understand why they're there now and how we market and grow our pools. What's next for you? You mentioned a little white paper a little there around the stake coins. What are you doing next? What's the future plans for the pool?
Well, future plans for the pool is making the whole website and appearance and the concept, what we do, a little bit more clear. Like I'm still spending a lot of my time explaining what the stake coins do and how they accumulate value. And there's still some gaps that we need to fill in terms of how do we prevent people from trying to maximize it or to abuse it. And it goes really well. The idea is that people accumulate native tokens that get a stacking bonus. So every block that we mint gets distributed, but not paid out yet. So we reserve a part of our profits, and that becomes a little treasury. Anyone holding stake coins can make a claim to a part proportional of that treasury, but it never devalues. Because if someone sells their coins to us back, we'll give them their percentage of ADA that they get, and then those coins are taken out of circulation. That means that all other coins still have the same value, but every consecutive block is then distributed among a smaller amount of coins. So it will start to build up. So the longer you hold it, the more value it'll accrue. But it might take a year, 2, 3, 5 years before you can actually cash in on that. But as soon as you cash in, you have the ADA, and it'll start count towards your delegation, and you get rewards for them, but it will no longer accumulate value. So it's kind of a little financial game of, how do you call it? The game of chicken, where the longer you hold it, the better it works. But we're still like hashing out some of the mathematical details. And that's difficult because that's not my strong suit, but we have Roman, the tech guy, to do that. And we have some critical people reading with us among our delegators. They're really enthusiastic to help solidify that. And after that, I'd really like to start adding ADA payments to my regular day job. Maybe a good plugin would really help someone, if like easy crypto payments for the. I've seen a Catalyst proposal for that. That was cool.
Yeah.
Know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking about. But what's his name? Adam. I've forgotten his last name. Adam K. Dean or Adam. Yeah, Adam Dean. He has already produced the exact plugin that we were going to produce.
Really?
So we've beaten to the punch, I think is the saying. So
then there's a good idea that's been brought to fruition, but
correct. Little unfortunate for us because we went through the whole Catalyst proposal process, which actually takes a long time. But he's done a good job. We looked over his code. It's all open source, so would most likely fork it, add in our bits and pieces, and then do a pull request back, and hopefully he adds it to his plugin, and the rest of the community can use it any way they want.
Yeah, Well, that's the blessing and the curse of open source. Of course, people can overtake you, but it's good. Like as long as the finished product is going to be there, and making these payments easy, like just as much as like tapping your phone with an NFC chip. Like if it becomes that easy, then mass adoption is just around the corner. And if that's there, then the Cardano highway is going to be busy, and we're going to be collecting fees. So,
yep.
I think that would be something good. And if I can make a small start with that in my own profession and see how that eventually ties into patient data management, because that's something that I kind of like how that's developing and how people should be, like how they're the owner of their own ADA. They take responsibility for their ADA by staking it through Daedalus or Roy. People should also be able to do that for their own health data, to make sure that they own it and that they decide who gets to see it, who doesn't. And there's already some really good apps for that. I'd really like to spend some of my time to do that, but that's in its infancy. So don't expect anything from that soon.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. Bas, it's been an absolute pleasure again speaking with you. We've gone through quite a lot in this little conversation. It's supposed to be just a little catch up, but
yeah, well,
we see where that went.
And we didn't even get to our dance off yet. Like we really need to think about if we really want to do that. Like we could, but maybe we should make teams and make like a reality show out of it. Like put some real effort into it. We'll start recruiting.
Yep. I actually had a chat with another STAYKPool where we were thinking about doing a quiz show.
That could be so much fun.
Yeah,
like with buzzers and everything.
Yep,
oh man.
Yep.
So I'd be down for that for sure.
Yeah, I don't know the exact way to do the buzzer. We might have to like set up a website where you can do an interactive clicker thing. But like when I was doing their interview, I had a couple of like quick fire questions just to warm them up, and it was like, hey, we should make a game show out of this. So it could be a good thing. I might run with it if people are interested.
Hey, that's your new Catalyst proposal. Let's go.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.
So if you are a STAYKPool operator, these delegation strategies come around every few months. So make sure you check out the requirements for them. If you're going for the Cardano Foundation one, there are those little requirements that you need to fulfill. That's one block being produced and at least 25,000 ADA pledge on your pool. So some people can't get that amount of pledge or even that first block. So it's a little bit hard to get that delegation strategy. The other one is the IOG one, where you will have to submit a form, an application, fill in the requirements there, and depending on what your pool is doing, what it's contributing back to the community, you may be eligible for that particular delegation. The last one is the F2LB, and that one is the delegation where you're basically in a queue, and depending on how much ADA you decided to stake towards that queue, you'll be ranked in a particular order. So check all of those out. One of those would be definitely something that you want to be looking into in regards to getting your pool up and running in those first initial stages. It's a really good little kick to make sure that your pool is operating as it should be, minting blocks. And if there are any issues, at least it's something from F2LB or Cardano Foundation, IOG, and not an investor that desperately needs that ADA back from as a return, and you can sort out any issues on your pool if there are any. Now, if you enjoy this type of content, talking about STAYKPools or even our other content on our weekly podcast, please make sure you give us that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click on the notification bell, and you hear more really great content from us soon. Okay, bye.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.